It is July 8th and RPG number 8 is finished, and it is Dot Hack Infection on the PS2. So this is the first game of Quadology. Quadology? Quadology. So the Dot Hack series is a transmedia property. In other words, it's not just games, it's other stuff as well, and the story all interconnects. So there's a lot of canon in the last 20 years. So it is about The World, which is the name for an online MMORPG. The game is only offline, you don't actually play an MMO. But it is a game that's trying to invoke the style of an MMO, but it's all offline, a single player game. But you actually have different party members you could recruit. They're not always going to be available for every mission you go on, because the characters have their own life they're dealing with outside the game. But you can actually log out of the game, the world, and then you actually have your computer interface, and you can actually receive emails, which you can then respond to some of them. Don't get me wrong, it's pre-prepared couple of different responses. You can't just type anything. There's also a news bulletin thing to see what's happening actually in the world. Sorry, not the game world, the world the game is set in. But the story follows on from an anime series, one that I actually watched originally back when I was a teenager. It was one of the first series that I ever saw that, anime wise, that was lent me by a friend of mine. And that, which is the first box set's here, Dot Hack Sign. He had one box set of all of it, but I've got this is one, and I've got another one up there. So I rewatched this in preparation for playing the game, because this is actually set right before the events of the first game. You don't necessarily need to watch it. It's just it does lay some background information. Also helps prepare you for the lore of the world. Yeah, they need to. I can see why they picked that name, but I'm trying to describe everything and get a bit confusing what I'm referring to. But what is quite cool as well is that for the 4 games that they made for the PS2, so Infection, Mutation, Outbreak, and Quarantine, each of those games came with its own DVD as well, and each of those DVDs, which includes an OVA, a original video animation, and it has something that is going on. Each DVD has the OVA on each DVD includes something that's happening in the real world of the game while you are playing the game. So it's a story of one of the characters or something. So I need to watch number 1 now, volume 1, In the Case of Mal Menez. Menezi? So I need to watch that. I'll do that tomorrow. After this, I'm going to do the wash shower and go to bed, because I'm getting tired. But do I recommend you play this? Yeah. Yes, but there's caveats. So if you're looking to dive into a transmedia kind of property, then yeah, this is quite cool, because it's, like I say, it's a bit archaic now, but it's great for something that was being done in the PS2 era. This is kind of maybe you see a lot more now. Final Fantasy did it with 15, they had some other properties as well as the game to tie it all together. But for this back then was a huge undertaking. There's also some novels, manga style novels that go not necessarily at the time of this, but you start reading those between a couple of the other games. I think there's a timeline. So, but with this is a good game for if you're listening to podcasts while playing a game that you don't have to pay too much attention to, or if you watch YouTube videos, because the majority of this game is pretty much going into dungeons, clearing the dungeon and then coming back out. Where it is quite archaic is that you have you only have your one character, in the sense of there's no customization of how you look, of the gender or the class. That's preset because it's needed for the cutscenes. But you could do both fighting and magic, but then you recruit other players to help fill, pure like fighting or pure magic. You can equip like different weapons and armor and things, as long as your class allows it. But where this is, I keep saying but a lot, where it's kind of archaic is you can only save, so the game only lets you save when you are in like a hub world, hub map, or whatever. You can't save once you go into one of the kind of dungeon areas. The problem is that you can only warp out back to the hub area if you are on like the field. So you go from the hub area and use a gate to get to a field, and then on that field will be an entrance to the dungeon. Once you go into the dungeon, you cannot leave until you come back out the entrance. The other thing as well is that once you get into a fight, you can't get out of it unless if you win. So if you're going through the dungeon, if you're on the field, you can like run and you can get out of the fight. If you are in the dungeon, once you enter a room and then a fight begins, the doors lock. And so this game can very easily overwhelm you with enemies that will do high amounts of damage that can like just decimate you quite quickly. So if you have got like quite way through a dungeon and you die, you go back to your last save, which you manually did back in the hub world, and next thing you know, like you could have lost several levels of experience of items you picked up. So then this is not how I played, because up front I do not own the game. This series has now become quite expensive. I know that Feed Me Chicken has just bought the first game. Hopefully this might be handy for you if you watch this. But even if you own the game, I would highly recommend it playing it through an emulator. I feel like, quality of life features, like being able to do quick saves, I think you'll enjoy this game a lot more if you have that kind of safety net. Because the dungeons themselves, there is very little variety. Don't get me wrong, there's like different like colours and like kind of styles, but the actual dungeons themselves, they are very, very, very similar. So you're not going to get a lot of variety. So again, this thing about like good for podcasts and things like that, where you're not really having to pay too much attention, but you still have to kind of pay attention so you don't die. So yeah, I would highly recommend, even if you own the game, using the game on your computer so you can save state, and also speed it up. So then if you're having to grind for experience, which is what I was having to do before the final boss, because that final boss will take you to town. Like seriously, you have to stock up as many resurrection items as you can and give them to your 2 NPC allies as well, because you will just go through them so quickly. But anyway, so yeah, so having to grind, like being able to just speed the game up to help build those levels quickly is a must, because yeah, otherwise you could potentially get a bit bored with it otherwise. So yeah, it has aged. That's part of the reason why people have been asking for ages to have this game ported on consoles and PCs, because there is a later quadrilogy which has been ported, but that was a more modern kind of style. I haven't played that yet. I'll do that later down the road. But this hasn't, and people think it's because the creators like Bandai probably feel it is too archaic to do now. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm going to play through the rest of it. I've been wanting to actually do this for since I watched the anime originally, but I never had PS2. I'm kind of glad I waited till now because I have those quality of life features. But maybe back then I would be more forgiving of it and having more free time for it. But anyway, yeah. So that is Dot Hack Infection, a game which it's not as easy a recommendation as some of the other games I've played this year, but as an artifact of what it was trying to do, I definitely think it's worth checking out. But okay. Till next time, bye.
When does fantasy begin? When does reality end? Dot Hack. Is it just a game, or something far more dangerous? Hack Part 1, game and DVD for PlayStation 2 from Bandai. Rated T for teen.